your actions are too loud, right? And that's just the truth of the situation. You don't have to say much to raise kids. They're just going to be like you, right? Just like, you know how the first time you said something like your dad or mom, and you're like, crap, I don't want to be like them. I swore myself I'd never be like them. I swore myself I'd never do that. And here we are, right? Guess what? You're just like your dad or mom. That's how this ends, okay? So guess what? Your kids are going to be just like you, like it or not, good or bad, you know? And you can't fake it either way, right? So, you know, every once in a while you hear parents say something like, you know, I come to church for the kids so they can have church and they can experience Sunday school, and I do it for them. I'll tell you now, it's not going to work, right? I remember we were at a different church, and the kids had like a hymn class or something, and at the same time, you drop your kid off at hymn class, and Abuna ran a Bible study for the parents of the kids in hymn class. So we dropped our kids off, and my wife and I went to the Bible study. There's 50 kids in the hymn class, and there's 4 people in the Bible study. And they all went to Starbucks, right? And the hymn class ends, all the kids come out, and then a couple of these parents come rolling in with their Starbucks, laughing with their friends, blah, 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 right? And I just remember thinking to myself, what do you think your kid's going to do when they're 18? They're going to go to Starbucks, right? Because you did. I want to be just like you, Dad. Right? And so you could say whatever, go to hymn class, it's very important. Well, you got a Bible study, and I see Abuna giving a Bible study to 3 people, and you're not one of them. You blew off class to go to Starbucks. Guess what I'm doing, right? So it's not about, you know, you have to go, you don't go. It's about, do you care? Because if you don't care, you don't think your kid's going to care, do they? Do you? Right? It's just not going to happen. They're going to be passionate about what you're passionate about. They're going to see you, right? So, and it works the other way around too, right? And, you know, I'll use my, you know, inappropriate language, right? But if you're going to go to church and you tell your kid, you know what, don't go to church. Forget church, son. Go somewhere else. Go have fun. You need to go have fun. Go to strip club. Do something else. Son's going to look at you going, no, Dad, I want to go to church with you. No, I'm going to go to church. You go, leave. Don't come to church. You're not allowed to come to church with me. Go to a bar and get drunk. Son's going to look at you like, no, I'm going to come with you. All right? So you can't actually mess it up either. Even if you try to mess it up, they're just going to turn out like you. And they're going to value what you value, right? So the only fix to being a good parent is fix yourself, right? And that's what all the saints say. Just fix you, right? Let it flow. There's a wonderful story. I haven't even gotten to my list yet. I probably won't. There's a wonderful story. I just make stuff up most of the time, actually. It works well. My kids hate it, but about Buddha Metal Miskin, Father Matthew the Poor. This woman came up to him, and she's like, my daughter, this is in Egypt in the 70s or 60s, and she goes, my daughter is bad. She goes out, she gets drunk, she dresses scantily, she sleeps around. It's a mess. You know, she's 23, 24, whatever. This is Egypt, right? I don't know what to do. I've lost all hope. I've tried all the priests. Nothing's working. My daughter's a tramp. And so Abuna goes, okay, I know what we're going to do. All right, he said, who's your father in confession? And she goes, well, I don't have one. He goes, okay, I want you to get one, and I want you to go every month or two. And what's your Bible reading like? And she goes, well, I don't really. He goes, okay, so I want you to do like 1 chapter a day, and I want you to do a meditation. Here's your journal. I want you to write down some stuff. And how often do you pray? And she goes, no, Abuna, you don't understand. I'm talking about my daughter. And he goes, oh yeah, your daughter. You're not allowed to speak to her. Don't say another word to her. Stop speaking to her. Not a word. And she's like, this is ridiculous. And he goes, no, not at all. So here's what you're going to do. And he gave her this prayer rule, and you're not allowed to speak to your daughter for 6 months. If she wants to talk to you, just give her food, water, shelter, and then walk away. So the mom starts going in her room and doing her meditations and closes her door just like Abuna told her to do, and the daughter's knocking. Mom, what are you doing in there? She's like, oh, nothing. I'm just in here doing my thing. And after 6 months, the daughter kept knocking and wanting to figure out what her mom's up to. And after 6 months, the story goes, she breaks down her mom's room, her door, and she says, Mom, I want to be like you. Not one word was spoken. nothing happened, right? So what did Abu Nametta do? He looked at the person speaking and he diagnosed the problem, right? Problem's not in the daughter. It never is. It's in mom. Mom's messed up. Fix mom, daughter gets fixed, right? So this story just shows you the importance of we model Christ. We take him, we become him, we talk like him, we think like him, we act like him. Our kids listen to us and they go, oh, I know who Jesus is, right? And as soon as I don't model that, then my knowledge of who God is gets warped, right? And we hear all kinds of, growing up, you hear all kinds of like just really jacked up concepts of God. I remember when I was little, people would tell me, when you're fasting, if you fast 30 days and you break it on the 31st day, the first 30 days don't count. And I was 10, and I thought, what kind of jerk God is this? Who would do such a thing? Even at 10, I was like, doesn't sound right. I'm just outside, they were singing 1, 2, 3, Jesus loves me. 3, 4, Jesus loves you, whatever they said, I don't know, can't make it rhyme. So, what is that? It's them. It's her relationship with God, her personal inability to feel God as a father, and she's putting it on me, right? So the only fix to that is to fix her. Okay, so let's get back to the list. Try not to respond to mistakes or disobedience with harsh punishment. And this is, of course, the MO of Egyptians. Hit first, ask questions later. The harsh punishment is usually not a good idea. This will not teach your children to value and understand what you're trying to instill. It will teach them that the parent is someone to be avoided and the action is something to be hidden. I can't tell you how many kids tell me stuff and then I'll be like, oh, did your parents know? They're like, are you crazy? You think I'd ever tell them? Why not? They'd lose their mind. They would just start screaming. They can't process it. They're emotional wrecks. They're emotionally immature. They're incapable of having a conversation. They're incapable of dialogue. They just scream. Okay, well, congrats. Right? Your kid's not coming to you. And in this world, you need your kid to come to you. Right? You need your kid to be it. You need to be it for your kid. I mean, just, I shouldn't. Just recently, my daughter was texting. She had a particular problem, and she's showing me all these texts. It's very private. And I was saying, okay, well, this, and then they responded this. Okay, we'll say this. And I told someone this story, and they're like, your 19-year-old daughter is talking to you about these things and showing you her texts and asking you. I'm like, yeah, is that not normal? They go, no, that's not. And I was shocked. So that should be the kind of relationship you have, because again, we don't have the buffer of the culture, right? The culture is all somewhat homogenous in Egypt, so everyone's kind of saying the same thing. Here it is not, right? And so here, you can't manage from the top and say, control actions. You have to manage from the inside out, right? You have to be there with them, be their friend, be there listening, be their confidant, so that you can focus on the situation, right? So my advice to you as a parent, and this is not something I do well, but something I'm trying to do, is no matter what your kid says, no matter what they say, you do not react, ever, in anger or yelling, or what did you do that for? That's stupid. That's illegal. Well, of course I know it's illegal. That's why I just told you. Or, heaven help us all, right? But your kid ends up in jail, whatever, drunk driving. You go down to jail to bail him out. You have one shot to be the face of Christ. Be it. Don't show up and go, you idiot. Don't you know this is illegal? Do you know this is on your record for the rest of your life? How stupid are you? Yeah, Dad, I know this is illegal. Thank you. You blew it. You had the chance to be like the father in the story of the prodigal son. Because when his son messed up and he came back, his reaction was quite different, right? Son tried to apologize, and he cut off his son halfway through the apology. I don't need to hear an apology. Fatted calf, ring on the finger, all the things. That's who God is. So my son or daughter is going to learn about God from me in that moment, right? And so at those moments, I highly encourage you. You got to do whatever you got to do. You know, if you got to say, oh, hang on, I'm really, you know, your son's, I'm in jail. Hang on one second, I'm really busy right now. I'm going to go in the other room and just punch a wall for a minute. I'll be right back, and we can discuss this. But don't discuss it at that moment, right? So no matter what your kid says, you always react calmly, question, oh, okay, right? And that's how you encourage dialogue. I'll tell you guys a story. I'm not going to get to any of this list, by the way. You know, my daughter, when she was in 9th grade, came up to me and said, you know, Dad, a lot of girls in my class are lesbians. And so I waited 5 seconds. It was quiet. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I waited 5 seconds. What percentage do you think are lesbian? She goes, oh, like 70%, 75%. I waited 10 seconds. And I said, oh, that's a lot, huh? She goes, yeah. I wait 10 seconds. I leave gaps on purpose. And I say, you know, the national average is like 5%. She goes, is it? I go, yeah. I wait 5 seconds. 70% seems like a lot more than 5%. She goes, yeah, it is a lot more than 5%. Isn't it, though? Yeah. I wait 5 seconds. And I say, do you get a lot of attention when you come out? She goes, yeah, there's clubs, and there's this, and everyone posts all this stuff about you, and everyone gives you big hugs, and everyone's happy for you that you finally came out of the closet. And I let her talk all about that, and I wait 10 seconds. And I say, so do you think anyone comes out just to get attention? And she goes, oh, yeah, I wonder if they do. Yeah, they totally do. I bet you that's what they do. And then she went off for 10 seconds. Or she went on for 30 seconds. And then I waited 10 seconds, and I said, I feel really bad for those people that they have to do that just to get attention. It's sad that you have to pretend to be somebody else just to get. She goes, yeah, that is sad. And that's it. Now, if I had started off on Leviticus, Sodom and Gomorrah, these people are, you know, abomination of God, right? These people are going to hell. These people are trying to trick you. Don't you listen to them. Don't you even talk to them. God says these people will burn in hell. If I had started that route, she would have been defending them. She said, Dad, you're a bigot. Dad, you're hateful. You have no love. You have no tolerance, right? And next thing you know, she would have been attacking me. So the approach of giving calm, listening, not reacting is very important, because she knew she can come to me with that statistic of, you know, most of the girls in my class are lesbians, and she could just say that. And I wouldn't, you know, the veins in my neck and my forehead wouldn't flare up, and she knew that would be safe. So I encourage all of you, no matter what the kid says, even if my brother's on fire. Now that one I would react a little bit quicker to, no doubt. But short of that one, you know, don't react. Okay. So, and you have to gauge as a parent, of course this is age dependent, but there are consequences, right? And so what you want to teach are consequences, right? Natural consequences. And natural consequences are beautiful, right? So if you touch the stove, it's hot, it's going to burn you, right? These kinds of things, right? Because if you're always the thing stopping me from the stove, right? I want to touch the stove and mom and dad are in the way, then you're the problem. So now they're only thinking about what? How to get around mom and dad. And you watch this, right? Don't touch the stove. The kid's like, and he's trying everything to touch the stove. You're the problem at this point, right? So I just take my kid's hand, I go really close to the stove, and they start to feel it. And I go, you still want to touch it? They're like, no, no, no. And then they want to pull their hand away. I go, no, 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 let's go a little closer. And then, no, no, no. I go, okay. And they never go back, right? So it's not I'm not stopping you. The fire is the bad thing, right? So a lot of parents get in their own way. They become the enemy. I can't tell you how many parents I've told, don't be the enemy. Be the good guy, right? Talk about the school is going to do this to you, or the policeman is going to do this to you, or the drugs are going to do this to you. Not me. If you do drugs, I will do this. Well, you're the enemy. You're the consequence. Don't be the consequence. If you do drugs, drugs are going to do this to you. And let me tell you about a friend, and let me tell you what happened. And then make yourself a little vulnerable. It's okay to open up to your kids, to apologize to your kids, to tell a story about yourself when you were a kid and you were stupid. It doesn't mean you're encouraging sin or encouraging them to do dumb things. It means, you know what, I'm right there with you. I get it. I get this is alluring. I tried the same thing once too, right? Within reason and age-specific context. But if you're the punishment, then the kids learn to avoid the parent, not the mistake, right? If the only thing that happens if I drink is my parents get mad, then the only objective I have is don't get caught. Duh, right? So if you've become the issue, then they just avoid you, right? So let them know the punishment isn't you. The punishment is life. The punishment is a consequence of this thing. Next thing, be more open about having doubts in the faith. So admittedly, you have to be careful here, right? But the problem is when kids have doubt, and we all have doubt, sometimes we attack them. We'll say, "Zay tqul kida," right? And you say, I don't know if I believe in God, or I don't know if I believe in this. How could you say that? I raised you in the church. Our family's a priest. My second uncle is the bishop. You should know better. How could you do this to us? Our family, Shaklina Eid. Have you told anyone about this belief? You're going to embarrass us. What just happened? Kids stunned, right? And obviously, I'm never going to talk to this crazy person about this topic ever again, right? Because you're talking about how it looks on you and the family name and how we raised you, and you're throwing a guilt complex on me. Calm and say, yeah, sometimes the saints have doubts in their faith too. Mother Teresa had a dark period in her time for years. It's okay. I've had doubts too. It's a natural part. And then the kid calms down because you're calm, right? But when the kid pokes and you react, they see the reaction. They're like, there's something here, right? I remember my son, I just keep going to tell you stories. In 8th grade, he comes up to me, 8th grade, and he says, I don't believe in God anymore because, my son, because we learned evolution and that means there's no God. And I was like, oh, crap, here we go, right? I take a deep breath, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, what'd you guys study in evolution? So, first of all, he's waiting for the reaction. He gets none. And he goes, well, we learned about natural selection. And I said, oh, yeah, that's a great theory, actually, and it's very true. The finch with the small beak, dies because it can't eat the bugs, and the finch with the long beak eats, so it lives. Makes perfect sense to me. He's just kind of stunned. I go, yeah, that's fine. That's not inconsistent with God. What else? And then he starts naming some other things like, oh yeah, that's a great theorem too. And we just start talking about evolution. Now, if I had demonized evolution and gotten really scared and said, your teacher is an atheist, and we're going to pull you out of that school, and those people are doing wrong things, and evolution is from the devil, evolution is a lie. I've heard people say that from the pulpit, that the evolution is from the devil. Then he would have been like, oh, I got Dad. I got him going. He's scared about something. There's something there, right? But when he saw me calm, he got calm. He goes, oh, okay, so I don't have an aha moment. Everything's calm. So these are the things. So even when you have a doubt in faith, let your son or daughter share it with you, and be open to that. Don't yell at them for it, Anyway, okay. And the problem is a lot of the saint stories and the priests and everybody, we all feel like they're all these perfect people, right? A lot of the stories start, from a very young age, this kid was glowing and levitating and he was doing miracles, and you're like, okay, so church is for the people who get it, right? And in church, we all look like we get it, right? We all have our eyes closed, we do the hands, right? And everyone's like, oh, wow, I'm the only one in this room who's like not praying right now, okay? So it's very lonely and isolating. So be there for them, right? And the reason this is important, right, it's again based on who Jesus is, right? I want you to think of Jesus, right? The second person of the Trinity, right? This is God, okay? And you want to talk about a divesting, condescension, right? God comes down to our level. It's a remarkable thing to even ponder, right? I mean, if Emba Tawedrus came and he came in here right now and he sat on the floor and he played with the kids, we'd be like, wow, isn't Emba Tawedrus so humble? He's sitting on the floor. He's so humble. Well, Amatwada's just a guy, right? Just like the rest of us. Okay? But Christ, God, comes into a pile of poop in a manger and doesn't even say, clean it up. I'm fine in the poop, right? That's condescension, right? And the first rule of having a kid is whenever you talk to a little kid, what do? You get down on one knee and you get at their level. Isn't that what Jesus did? Get down on a lot of knees, come down to our level. So come down to their level. Meet kids where they're at, right? They don't have to be you. They don't have to be perfect. Meet them where they're at, right? I mean, every once in a while, a kid will show a dad a TikTok video. Hey, Dad, look at this funny TikTok video. And Dad's like, TikTok, they're ruining it. They're making you stupid. These clips, how much time do you spend on this? Are you even studying? Why aren't you studying right now? China is trying to infiltrate us, right? And the guy goes off on the lecture on TikTok. And the son's like, so you don't want to see the funny dancing? Okay. A moment to connect, gone. Right? Come down to their level. Send them a TikTok video. Right? Meet them where they're at. That's where they are at. Go to them. Right? If they're out on the basketball court, if they're out on the bike, if they're out on the run, if they're out on the TikTok, meet them where they are. Condescend to their level. You aren't lowering yourself. Right? In fact, you're raising yourself because you're becoming like Christ, right? And this is kind of the dream parent mode, right? Where every kid thinks that their parents are at the same time at their level, right? It's kind of an amazing thing. Dialogue, not debate. Sometimes kids will do things you do not like. Really? Yeah. And you need to be okay with that. Some of your kids are going to do very bad things. Some of our kids are going to sin. Some of our kids are going to go to jail. And some of our kids are going to do things that we wouldn't imagine our kid to do in a million years. Okay? That's going to happen. That's just going to happen. And so the question is now, how do you react to those things? And that's now going to be the more important question. Because a lot of times we spend most of our parenting on prevention, which is good, but we don't spend a lot of time on hope and renewal and regeneration. Because when they fall, and it starts when they break a vase on the coffee table, how do you react? If the first thing when the vase breaks is, what'd you do? Why'd you do that? You broke it. Well, no kidding. I can see it's broken. Right? The first word out of your mouth is what? Are you okay? Is everything okay? Are you hurt? See, now I care about you. I don't care about the vase. Big difference. Right? So that's the beginning of when I mess up, how does the reaction come back? If it's what did you do? Why'd you do that? That's not smart. Okay. Yeah. Well, I did a lot of not smart things too growing up, turns out. In fact, sometimes our kids are not nearly as bad as we were, I think. So when your kids act in a way that's inconsistent with you, which happens, you have to treat them with respect and have a conversation, right? So if a kid does something dumb, and you just come to the end result and say, that's dumb, why'd you do that, that's stupid, he's probably going to shut down, right? You know the thing about kids when they get screamed at, they don't listen. So the better approach is, oh, that's interesting that you did that. Why'd you do it like that? Okay. Now, I can walk you through my process. I can say, well, I really wanted to go here. Okay, that's good. And then I figured if I went there, then this would happen. Okay, yeah, that's good. But I couldn't do this because of that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So then I did this because I figured this would happen. Like, that's the problem right there. See, that one goes the other way. And now I've walked them through the process. I didn't just call them stupid and blame the end result. I walked them through the process and I looked at 6 steps, and number 4 was backwards. And so I just said, you just got to fix number 4. You see, what happens is when you do that, that's going to happen. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why this happened, and that's why, yeah, okay. Now we have a moment, right? Now we have one to grow on. Now the next time I screw up, I'm going to say, hey, this didn't go the way I thought it was. I told my friend something. He got really angry. What did I do wrong? And then I can go through it again. Well, why did you talk to them? What did they do? Why did you send it like, oh, that's the problem. You sent it like this text. You should have sent it like this text. Okay, whatever. So when the kids aren't like us, we sometimes want to hammer them into being like us. All right? And God made us diverse. Like I said in the sermon today, Daniel wasn't there, but what I said in the sermon today was God gave us each a unique fingerprint. Right? Everyone is unique, including your kids. Right? Kids are unique. They're not you. That's okay. Right? Celebrate their not you-ness. If they do something you don't do, that's okay. If they have a hobby you don't like, that's okay. Right? Tell them, hey, teach me how you play this game. I don't know how to play ping pong. I'm a tennis man myself. Right? And instead of insisting that you play tennis like your dad with me, celebrate their ping pong. Kids are done? Okay. Did anybody have any questions or comments? Criticisms, complaints? I know how this works. Kids come, it's all over. Thank you very much. All right. And glory be to God forever. Amen. All right, go get your kids.